going to call this meeting to order. My name is Graham Wiffler. I'm the president of the Chevy Chase Estates Association. We will be recording this. I think I see the notice. We'll be recording this because so many of your neighbors have asked to see this. They couldn't be here tonight, but they wanted to watch it at a later date. This is our 85th year of doing this. 85 years. That's amazing. The Chevy Chase Estates Association is the oldest association of homeowners in California. We started soon after the canyon was beginning to be developed. The guy that developed it had this utopian vision of a community in a canyon surrounded by nature. At the center, there was a golf course and then beautiful homes all around. It was going just great until the Depression hit and he lost it. The banks took over and the banks wanted to tear up the golf course and take what would be one lot and put 5 or 6 houses on it, just little shacks. So the neighbors got together and they created this oldest of California associations of homeowners. We have kept the golf course through all these years. They at some point they wanted to run the 2 freeway down through the canyon. They don't now, or they never did. They wanted to put a garbage dump in the canyon, and that didn't happen. And the golf course a number of times was ready for development. At one point, the city had seized it to build schools, and all these battles we fought over the years, and we win most and we lose a few, but it's a volunteer organization, and we have our directors here, and if they all wave their hands so you can see who these people are that are giving their time and effort and following in the footsteps of many people before them for 85 years. First, we're going to do our business first, and then we'll have our presentation, which you're going to find out about the evacuation drill for Chevy Chase Canyon, and it's quite a thing, and it's going to be great. But you got to wait for that. We got to do our business first. So first off, I would like to get a vote on the approval of the minutes from the last meeting. For everyone else, you weren't here for the last meeting, so you don't need to approve them. But for the people that were the directors, can I get a vote or a motion to approve?
Move to approve.
A second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 That passes. The second item on our agenda is the treasurer's report, and to do the treasurer's report, we have our very own treasurer, Douglas Hughes, who will give you all the report. Douglas?
Good evening. So this is our end of our fiscal year 2021. This is the end of year consolidated financial position. And this year, when I speak of the year, I speak of a fiscal year. Our regular income was $6,074.32. We gained $486.27 in interest income, and we had expenses of $5,467.60, leaving us with a net income of $1,092.99. We have a checking account balance of $13,182.10. And we have our investment, our 18-month certificate, right now valued at $38,217.81. And that concludes the annual report.
Move to approve.
I have a motion to approve.
Yes, move.
Second. All those in favor of approving?
Approved. Aye.
It's been carried. Now we have a vote that everyone has to vote on. And we have 2 items up. all our members need to vote. One is to reinstate directors. The directors serve for, I believe, 3 years, maybe 4. I don't know. I'm not sure, but we have a slate of 4 years. We have a slate of directors that are up for re-election, and we need your up and down vote on them. So I'm going to read them off, and if they just wave their hands so we know who you are and who the people will be voting for. Number 1, Graham Whiffler, that's me. Number 2, Jack Daly. Jack Daly. Douglas Hughes. You've met Douglas Hughes, the treasurer, and he's not listening right now. Ted Monty. Ted. And Palma Vincenti. Okay, so what I need from everybody, and I think what we'll do is we'll raise your hand because everyone's on mute. Raise your hand if it's a yes vote, and then we'll ask for no votes, and then you can raise your hand for that. So all those in favor of reinstating and revoting for the current crop of directors, please raise your hand.
Yeah.
Okay, and those opposed? Oh, good. The directors have been reelected. Now, we have another interesting bit of business that everyone has to vote on. We want to amend our Constitution, and we need your vote to do so. The reason we're doing it is in the past, every 2 years for one of these meetings, we would have the people that are running for city council come and debate. And it was the neighborhood loved it. It was a great dog and pony show, and the candidates loved it. But what happened was the city council changed the date for the election. And as it stands right now, we can't do a candidate night because they're already elected. So we have to move our meeting so we can accommodate candidate night. And so as the Constitution I'll show you the Constitution here if I can do this. This is the Constitution. And basically it says that the members shall be the annual meeting will be held in March of every year. Well, we can't do March now because the vote has changed, the voting for city council. So what we want to do, and the change is basically less than a sentence. And the change is in each calendar year on a date set by the board of directors. So basically that means that every year we'll be having a meeting, but we, the board of directors, want to be able to have the flexibility to name that date. We probably won't be changing it, if the city council doesn't again change the voting, but at least with this provision, we can change it so we can have our candidates night and get everyone debating. And if anything else unforeseen comes up, we don't have to wait a year or two to get the Constitution changed so we can change the date. So with that being said, I need a vote for all those in favor of changing the Constitution.
I'll make the motion to make the change.
And I
Second?
second.
Okay, sorry. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Oh, it looks like it carried. Very good. So that means we'll have a candidate forum.
Great.
Now we have some other business. We have a report from our library person, Director Kimberly Burns Turner, and she'll give you a little bit of an update, short update on what's going on at the Chevy Chase Library, where she is broadcasting or talking from right now. Kimberly?
Hi, everyone. So I'm taking advantage of the great Wi-Fi here at the library. It's way better than at my house. And if you want to do that too, you can come by during the hours that the library is open, which is Wednesdays from 2 to 8 p.m. and Saturdays from 12 to 5 p.m. I'm also taking advantage of another bit of space in the library that's super special for something like this. I'm in their private conference room that you can reserve in advance. And behind me, actually, it's decorated by a Chevy Chase Canyon family sons, Austin Withridge, who for his Troop 125 project, for his Eagle project, he put together all these great photos of the history of Chevy Chase. And behind me are some that were when we almost lost the library and we were trying to rally up and get the city to not shut it down. So one reason to come here alone would be just to look at the photos that are in this room, because it's pretty fun to see that bit of history. A lot of that's also in our book, but these are a little bit bigger photos. So I wanted to tell you about a couple of projects that are happening in the library. Even though we are still in COVID world, there are a few things that they're doing for kids to take home activities. And these are, I have a little book here. This is called Storytelling Dice Game. And this is a package that you can get once a month. These packages change. You can come into the library and pick up a package to do the activity at home. And another one that we've had was create your own kite. And they give you this bag to take home and make your own kite. So each month, feel free to come by and see what the next activity is for the kids. The library also has a coffee machine, but make sure you bring your own cup. They're being very environmental here, but it's free coffee, so it's nice. There's also a shelf area right when you enter the library that is to the left, and you can pick a book and leave a book. So sometimes, you know, it's kind of a neat way to change out the book, just like we have our little library book things at our mailbox sometimes. Well, now you can come here and use the pick a book, leave a book shelf area. If you have any questions about the library and the future of the library, you can speak to Hala. She's about the best person for resource for information. And I will put in the chat Glendale Library website and also Hala's email and name so that you can easily attain that. The one last thing to tell you about, or a couple more things, there's the library's been working on a new program called the Open Plus model. This you may have heard about. We've had an ice cream social earlier in the year that was kind of bringing up everybody, letting to know that the library is open again. And we talked a little bit about this Open Plus model. Well, that's still not active, and it's probably going to be a few months away. So just keep thinking of the library as the way it's always been with our normal hours. And then hopefully in the future, we'll have additional hours going on here. And the library also is looking for a branch manager for this space. So if you are interested, or you might know somebody that is, you can reach out to Hala and she can, guide you there too about how to apply. That's it for me.
Kimberly, I have one question that I believe there's been a change, and that is the library has greatly increased the amount of other libraries that they can pull books from and materials that they can be brought to Glendale. I mean, it's a huge number, right?
Yeah, thank you. That's a great thing to bring up, Graham. On the website, there's going to be that information. So one thing that you can do is pick if this library branch does not have a book you want, you can order it, and it can actually be either delivered to this library for you to pick up, or you could pick it up at the main branch. And they have access to all kinds of libraries' books. So it's more likely that you're going to not have to wait that long for that right book.
And that library book could be pulled for you off the shelf of a library, say in Fresno. I mean, it's really expansive.
It is really expensive. And one thing I did not that long ago was there were some books that I needed for our daughter for school, and this library, Chevy Chase branch, didn't have it. And the librarian was super helpful, got the books just over the counter for me, ordered, and I was able to, within a couple of hours, go to the main branch and pick those books up. So that's so nice, because then you don't have to go looking for them in the main branch. You know that they're there waiting for you under your name. So super neat resource too.
Thank you. The library is a treasure in our canyon.
Totally.
We've weighed in on a couple of developments that were less than nice, maybe. One involved the removal of 9 mature oaks from one lot, which is pretty much a deforestation. That project has been returned for redesign, so we don't know what's up with that one. There was another one on Charing Cross where a developer sought to get variances for a whole bunch of rules, and one of the things he wanted variance on was setbacks, the maximum size of the house versus the lot. There were a number of them, and it was one of the first times in the planning process that I've ever seen all the staff come out opposing the granting of those variances. Always the staff goes, yeah, let's do it. And this one, the staff said no, and the hearing officer said no. So they denied it. They denied 4 of the 5 variances. But the applicant is looking to have that overturned, and I believe that will be by the city council. So this is something coming on up. And we have one other bit of news that I can't tell you a lot about because it's still kind of super secret, but we're planning a party. And it's going to be a canyon-wide party put on by the Chevy Chase Estates Association, and keep your ears to the wind because we're going to be releasing details soon. So it's going to be party time in the canyon. And with that, I would like to adjourn the meeting. Do I have somebody who would like to promote adjourning the meeting?
I adjourn. Second.
Second. Well, y'all in favor of adjourning the meeting? Because then we can get on to the fun stuff.
Okay.
Okay, so coming on up here, we have Jonathan Payne, Fire Captain and Emergency Manager of the Glendale Fire Department, and Patty Mundo, Vegetation Management Specialist. Now the deal is the fire department is planning to do an evacuation drill of our canyon. They did one a while back in Glen Oaks, and that was their first one. They're planning one. It's all in process right now to do one in our canyon, and everybody is asked to participate. I was here 12 years ago when we had a big fire, and they had to shut off the roads, and there was a lot of confusion, and you'd be surprised how many people know only one way out of our canyon. So it's a true public safety effort, and it's just a fantastic idea to get everybody up to speed on how to get out when we have to get out. If there's a fire, you don't want to sit around here because number one, you may burn up, but even worse, you may block the fire engines that are trying to put out the fires. So it's the evacuation is a real important safety measure. And also we'll have Patty talking about all the different vegetation that's found in our canyon that presents a real fire hazard. It's just like gasoline out there, and how to deal with it and how to mitigate it. So without further ado, Jonathan Payne, are you out there?
Yes, I am. Thank you very much. And good evening, everybody. Truly a privilege to be here this evening with you all. And thank you very much, Sarah and other members of the board, for the invitation. As as mentioned, I'm going to discuss what we are planning, which is an evacuation exercise of Glen Oaks. I'm sorry, Chevy Chase Canyon. I say Glen Oaks because, as mentioned by the kind gentleman, Glen Oaks was done just previous last year in November. We had success in the operation and the exercising of the evacuation plan, and we hope to mimic, if not exceed, the turnout here in Chevy Chase. So, if I may, I have a brief PowerPoint. It shouldn't take but a few minutes to cover. I think I can share my screen. Maybe if someone just tells me if they see it. Can everybody see the slide?
You're on.
Yeah.
I'm on. Okay,
Good.
excellent. So Chevy Chase Canyon evacuation exercise planning for May 14th. My understanding is May 21st is your annual, is that annual HOA gathering? Did I understand that correctly? No, maybe I got the dates wrong. But the 28th was Memorial Day. So, or I should say that weekend was the weekend of Memorial Day weekend. So we didn't want to do it then. We chose the 14th. And so the concept is going to be slightly different from what we did in Glen Oaks. Glen Oaks was a one-day exercise with a fixed command post with a media presence. And that still may happen to some extent. But the reality is, I think, considering Chevy Chase has so many different exits, I'm going to propose to the planning committee that we do something slightly different, and we do a 2-week, if not longer, period of time where folks will be encouraged to develop a plan to evacuate or to practice evacuation routes, different routes than what they normally may use. And then on the 14th, when they receive the alert and warning, to truly evacuate. And that is loading your car, loading your family, and proceeding to an evacuation site, or just making it out of your house and out of your neighborhood to get the exercise of how long it would take you to gather your belongings.
Yeah.
So, little quiz here. Which of these events is most likely to cause an evacuation in Chevy Chase Canyon? Earthquake, wildfire, wind, hazardous material, terrorism or sabotage, rain or debris flow. Well, the reality is any and all of these can cause an evacuation or a stay at home, what they call a kind of a lockdown order that could happen. But what we're going to focus on for this evacuation drill really is the mindset of having a fast moving wildfire approaching your canyon, as has recently in many parts of the United States, and this causing an immediate evacuation of you and your family. So how do we come to the conclusion on when to evacuate? Well, the fire department takes in a lot of factors here, and this is just a few of them. The fire behavior modeling, and that's where Patty comes into play with her understanding of vegetation, as well as our fire behavior analysts, examining the topography and the weather patterns that might affect your canyon. Then combining that with alerts and warnings and local knowledge. And that's the firefighters who've been in the canyon for years and years, who know exactly how fires travel. As you know, there's a lot at risk in the canyon. There's private property, there's parks, there's businesses, there's water and power, or infrastructure, I might say. And of course, most importantly, there's the life of you residents and the lives of visitors. So what is the fire department, or I should say the city's responsibility when we call for an evacuation? Well, and these are the things that we have to test. One, it's a communication. What is our communication plan with you folks? Are you also able to receive the communication? I'm understanding that there's some internet challenges in the canyon. There's probably cell phone issues in the canyon as well. So we're going to test that. We're also going to test how well you've planned. It's going to be a self-examination, but how well you've planned as residents for that evacuation moment. Do you have a plan? Your transportation needs, are they met? Do you have a way out? And if not, can we as a city help? And of course, the sheltering arrangement. We're going to also examine where and when we send the notice on where you folks would go to shelter if needed. if need be. So this is an interesting slide here. And again, I'll make this real brief. The decision to evacuate, it's no joke. We take it very seriously when we ask folks to leave their homes. And we understand in reality, there's no obligation other than simple human kindness for you to want to evacuate, or for that matter, to save your own life. Many people choose not to evacuate for whatever reason, and that proves deadly and harmful. So we weigh that decision to call for an evacuation seriously. And so the incident commander determines what the message looks like. And you, the resident, the person living in the canyon or visiting the canyon, will decide what to do with that message based on your perception of the risk. So part of this exercise is to help you folks understand, and you do. Trust me, if anybody understands how deadly wildfire is, it's Chevy Chase and Glen Oaks Canyon, what the risk could be, but also what to do. Finally, we also incorporate a fire behavior analysis. So we get scientific in this, and we call in a Los Angeles County fire behavior analyst who determines which events would be the most likely to cause an evacuation. So with that said, and I'm just using what we already know, essentially there's some high risk days. These are the ones that we're really worried about for a fire. And it's about 25 days a year. It's when you get high temperatures, you get low relative humidity, and you get a lot of wind, over 15 miles per hour. And it happens pretty much June through December. The only difference is the weather, but the fuels, their moisture, and Patty can speak a little bit more to that, really helps to drive these fires. So fires are nearly a year-round event for our folks in the canyons, and we want to prepare for that. So what are our goals for this evacuation exercise? Test our evacuation notification system. We want to find out what's the coverage of cell phones, our residents enrolled in Glendale emergency alerts and warnings. We want to evaluate our response. What's our response to a fire in the canyon, and is it adequate when there's a call to evacuate? And we want to allow you folks, the most important ones there, an opportunity to test your emergency plan. And that's using the Ready, Set, Go and other preparedness efforts to evacuate. We want to try to identify those problem areas, narrow streets, poor water supply. And then finally, we're going to hot wash, or I should say do an after action review, develop a plan, and continue to exercise that plan and train for that rare but significant event. So here's what one of the warnings may look like. Not that you're going to receive this on the day of the evacuation, but this is common and this happens oftentimes. This one was taken from a weather watch. Increasing northeast winds. I'm not sure if any of you have seen this on Twitter or Facebook. This sort of message highlights the exact type of message that would activate or put us in a warning phase where we would want to certainly look out for an evacuation. So these are just some of the points that I gathered. Let me go ahead and stop sharing my screen here. And let me see, how do I stop sharing?
Up at the top, it says in red, it says, there.
There we go. All right. So that explains the evacuation exercise. It's on May 14th. Again, this is a volunteer program, meaning you will evacuate if you choose. We hope you do. We really do, because that's how communities survive these traumatic events, is by a whole community approach. So with that said, I know we'll be meeting more as a committee. I believe, Sarah, you're on that committee, and a few other folks. We'll be planning that out. You'll get plenty of information, plenty of notice, I assure you, between now and May 14th. And if it's okay with you, sir, I'd like to open it up with questions before I turn it over to Patty. Are you okay with that?
Sure.
Does anybody have any questions for me?
I have a question.
Yes, please.
I am always under the impression that because of our location, being that we abut Pasadena as well as La Cañada, which is LA County, and Pasadena, of course, is Pasadena, that in the event of a fire, we would hopefully have 3 different organizations coming to respond. And I wanted to know if you've worked on your communication with all three entities.
Absolutely. That is a really good question. In fact, most of Glendale, actually 60% of Glendale resides in what they call the very high fire severity zone. And that's determined by the state of California. And particularly along the Foothill Corridor and along the 2 corridor, that is called the mutual threat zone. So agencies from Los Angeles City, Los Angeles County, and Verdugo, that's what Glendale, Pasadena, and Burbank and the other area cities are a part of, combine their efforts on a common communication platform and respond in force to any fire within your community. In fact, if we were to get a fire burning near the Art Center, which is just over the hill, that's the ideal negative situation where a fire would really rip right through both canyons. You're going to get upwards of about 40 to 50 pieces of equipment responding in, even fixed wing and aircraft and hand crews, well equipped. Now, the challenge is, and I don't mean this in a negative way, is the folks who live in these narrow canyons. How do we best protect them, and when do we tell them to get out? Because the reality is these fires move fast, and despite the best equipment and the most equipment we have responding, it can still be a challenge. So very good question. Thank you, Kathy. I appreciate that.
I actually have a question that sort of builds on that, which
yes, please.
is, you're doing this, and I think it's a great idea to do this evacuation drill on the 14th, but it occurs to me because, living up here near Chevy Chase and Figueroa, the likely evacuation routes are through Pasadena or La Cañada. And if those communities are evacuating as well, that's going to impact traffic flow. So is there a thought of doing a joint evacuation drill? Because you really have to take into account what's going on in those other communities at the same time that you're trying to evacuate this side of the hill.
Yeah, no, 100%. That's a good question. And we are in close communication with Pasadena and La Cañada, Flint Ridge emergency managers. I know them personally. And if a fire were to develop in that area that we spoke about, all three agencies, including LA County, would be on board. And the reality is, I cannot tell a Pasadena resident to evacuate. They're not even on our alerts and warning system. We do have workarounds, meaning we can send out one of those big blasts. You get the Amber Alerts, everybody gets it. But sometimes that might take time to get out. So oftentimes the message is going to be brief and quick, and it will come from both Pasadena, Glendale, and La Cañada, Flint Ridge, or Los Angeles County, but it will encompass all those residents regardless of their jurisdiction. So we hear you, and yeah, that is something we've thought about and we're prepared for. Thank you for that.
I have a question.
Yes.
Are you an officer? I didn't get that. Are you with the fire department?
Yes, ma'am. I'm with the fire department.
Okay, how do I get enrolled? I missed that part. I was supposed to put something in the cell phone.
Yeah, what you're gonna do, and what I can do is I can send maybe to Sarah a whole list of ways in which you can sign up for alerts and warnings, and that way you can take your time and fill that out. Would that be best? If I was
When today? When?
Well, I'll send that tomorrow when I'm back in my office. Are you okay with that?
Okay, yes, I want to be enrolled.
Yep, I'll send that to Sarah tomorrow.
Thank you.
I'm reporting live from the garage tonight, so and you're about ready to hear a 80-pound Labrador start barking. He's not happy.
Who punished you? Why did they kick you out?
Well, I'm married, and that's another story. So, well, I tell you what. Well, thank you very much. Any other questions? Feel free.
I have a question.
Yeah. Yes.
If you live kind of in the center of the canyon, if you will, and there is a fire, which we might not necessarily know where the fire is, how would we know which way to evacuate, north or south?
Really good question. The message initially, no doubt, would come out saying, residents in Chevy Chase Canyon, evacuate, avoid this area. And it might be avoid, I'm not sure, you name a street between you and the fire, and they would probably say that. Now, those messages would be quick to begin with, because that's just the nature of the business. We want to get you noticed, get you the notice, and get you moving. And we'll give you some direction. And subsequently, messages will then reveal, where to evacuate, what shelters are open, and further instructions. All right. Well, I don't want to take too much of your time. Can we pass it on over to Patty?
Yes. Can we have some applause for Captain John?
Thank you all. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Okay, next up, we have vegetation in the canyon, and Patty Mundo will be talking about that. Patty?
Yes, hi. Hey, well, first of all, good evening to all of you guys. And I have to apologize, but I'm having some technical difficulties with my computer, so I'm not able to pull up my PowerPoint on my camera. So I'll just facilitate a discussion if that's okay. It won't take too long. So good evening. Thank you guys for having us. Like Captain Payne mentioned, my name is Patty Mundo. I'm a fire inspector for the Glendale Fire Department. I am the lead vegetation management inspector, and my primary job is to inspect the properties that are in the high fire hazard areas. And for those of you that don't know what a high fire hazard area is, it is an area within the city boundaries that has been determined to be at a higher risk for wildfires. These areas are determined by several factors, such as the fire history, the vegetation, the terrain, weather, and among other factors. And approximately 2/3 of the city lie within the high fire hazard area, which is pretty significant. And as you guys know, the Chevy Chase Canyon is in the high fire hazard area. Wildfires are problematic and destructive in California. We see this every year. In the 2021 fire season, over 3,000 structures were destroyed in California alone. And this year's fire season is predicted to have above normal activity. I'm not sure if you guys were watching the news last week, but the Cleveland National Forest had a brush fire that scorched just about 500 acres. Luckily, no homes were threatened or destroyed, but it does go to show that the potential definitely exists now, even if it's March, if it's January, February. We have Santa Ana winds right now. So it's important to have and maintain defensible space within your property year round, like Captain Payne mentioned. It is not a one-time thing. It's an ongoing commitment because vegetation is going to continue to grow. And this is required by law. This is the state of California and the city of Glendale require defensible space to be maintained 100 feet from any nearby combustible building, including adjacent structures. But do keep in mind that you're not required to cross your property line in order to clear 100 feet. If your property only goes 75 feet, then that's all you're required to do. It's either 100 feet or the property line, whichever comes first. And that's important for you guys to know, because I know there's a lot of confusion with that. So defensible space, if you guys don't know, is the buffer a homeowner creates by removing dead vegetation, such as plants, grass, and weeds. It is an area around a structure where combustible vegetation that can spread fire has been cleared, reduced, or replaced by fire-resistant plants. By reducing the volume of fuel, it can result in low-intensity fires, which are easier to handle. On the other hand, large volumes of fuel allow a fire to burn hotter and longer, which can be difficult to manage. That's why reducing the fuels, the flammable fuels vegetation around your structure is very important. Having a 100-foot wide space helps protect a home from catching fire from embers, direct flame contact, and radiant heat. And having good defensive space also helps slow and can even potentially stop a wildfire from spreading during normal conditions. So some of the things that I wanted to touch on specific to Chevy Chase Canyon is when I do my inspections, there's a few items that I note that are common, like the common violations that I see in Chevy Chase Canyon. Obviously, there's a lot of trees there, so there's a lot of understory or dead wood underneath trees. So a couple things that I'm just going to touch on that are important. The roof surface is the most vulnerable part of your home, and embers pose the greatest threat to a home because embers can get into small places like an attic or vent and start a fire. So some things you can do to protect your home are clearing your roof surface and gutters from leaf litter, branches, or other combustible debris. This will minimize the potential of flying embers igniting the roof or your roof. Trees that are overhanging or resting on the roof of a structure should be well maintained, so there's no dead wood, or no dead branches near the roof or a chimney. And tree branches should be cut back to 10 feet. Homes with wood shingle roofs are at high risk of being destroyed during a wildfire. For existing structures, it's highly recommended that homeowners re-roof with materials such as metal, tile, or composition, and block any spaces between the roof decking and covering to prevent embers from catching. Like I mentioned earlier, the Chevy Chase Canyon has a lot of trees, a lot of oaks, eucalyptus trees. So the trees, if you have trees in your property, you want to clean underneath this so there's no understory, or dead wood litter. You want to lift low branches to provide a minimum of 6 feet of clearance from the ground or 1/3 of the tree height. If you have continuous vegetation, it should be spaced out at a minimum of 20 feet. This is important because continuous fuels provide an uninterrupted path for fire to spread, so the intensity will be higher. If your property extends to a road, vegetation should be maintained within 10 feet of the road to allow access for emergency response vehicles and to minimize fire intensity near the roads. Trees and bushes that extend over the roadway should be trimmed back to the edge of the pavement, curb, or sidewalk. And lastly, this is common pretty much everywhere. Overgrown grass should be cut down to 4 inches or in height or less. And it's okay, if you cut your grass, it's okay to leave on the ground, as long as it's not thick. So, there are many things that I pay attention to and I look at when I'm doing my inspections, but because of time, I just wanted to share the most common violations I've noted in the Chevy Chase Canyon. And then if you're interested in learning and getting more information regarding home hardening, vegetation management, you can visit the city website, the glendaleca.gov, or CAL FIRE's website, which is very good. It has a lot of helpful videos and information. Their website is fire.ca.gov. So again, just want to make it clear that it is crucial that all homeowners that live in the high fire hazard areas do their part to keep their homes and communities safe from wildfires. And as I mentioned earlier, it's a defensible space in combination with home hardening as your best defense during a wildfire. So that is all I got. You guys have any questions? And again, I know this is difficult without the camera and the PowerPoint.
I have a question.
Yes, go ahead, please.
How can I get all that stuff that you told us, 1/3 inches, all of that? Can I get that in writing? Can you send that with our Glendale Water and Power bill through the city? Can you send us to the homeowners?
Especially the part that about the tree.
Okay,
Tree being cut back like 10 feet with branches.
Can I get all that information? I couldn't hear.
Yeah, I know it is a lot of information, and so right now I am actually working on sending the annual letter. You guys receive a letter every year before I start the inspections. And we also send out a brochure, and the brochure covers everything, basically everything that I covered. Not, it has more actually, more information, but it will have some of that information, like the cutting the grass, trimming the trees, 1/3 of the height of the tree, and the 10-foot clearance between the branch, or you want to limb your trees 10 feet from the road. Is that what you're asking?
Thank you. Yeah, I'll be looking for that brochure, but I have to mention something. When we first moved in here, I received that letter saying zone 4 and all that in red 40 years ago. This is 40 years later and the letter has not changed. This is totally fake. There were no fires then. 40 years ago, there was only that one fire where the captain put the cannon on fire, but there were no other fires. Now we have fires and that letter has not changed. 100 is nonsense.
Yeah, the annual letter.
It's okay, you don't have to answer. That's how I feel.
No. Actually, the annual letter, we myself and the assistant fire marshal revised it this year, so it's a brand new letter that's going to be going out.
Is it possible to make it like 200 feet away from the house?
You know, that's something that I've talked to Chief, our ex fire marshal, Chief Ragusa, who's not with us anymore, but that is something that we were working on. And right now that we don't have an actual fire marshal, until that position gets filled, then we could talk, pick that up. And because that is something that I know some people really want. So I was pushing for it. And as soon as we get someone that could approve that, then I'll definitely bring it up again.
Do we have any other questions?
Yeah.
Chris?
Yeah, so we have a hillside home with a lot of oaks, and these oaks are literally right up against the house. So I kind of, when I read the pamphlet, I really struggle with reconciling what the requirements are for fire safety and what the city arborist mandates for protecting the trees. And all of these trees are clustered together. So you were talking about how they should be separated and spaced between the trees. There's just, it's impractical. And it's hard to reconcile what you're saying with what the arborist would say.
Yes.
So how do we process what you're putting out there and what the other half of the city is saying?
Okay, so did you speak with Catherine, the city arborist?
I've had her at the house. We've walked the property.
So,
yes.
So I actually work with her pretty a lot. So we're in constant communication. So we actually, the fire department can basically, if she says that you can't trim this tree because it's an oak tree and it's a protected tree, if I say that it's a fire hazard and it needs to be trimmed, then that it just how was that word? I can't think of. If she basically will allow it because it's coming from the fire department, and we have an ordinance that can it regulates that. So if she said, yeah, and then if there's any confusion, I would love to go to your property and take a look. But so
okay, I good to know. It's just this is something that I think is confusing. And
yeah, I understand. Yeah, it is. Trust me, it is. I deal with this a lot, and so basically, and she's made it very clear too, Catherine, who's the city arborist. Yeah. She's made it very clear that if I say, you know what, it needs to get trimmed up, or this tree needs to go because it's a fire hazard, then she said, go for it. You know, you don't need to get a permit for that either, if it's coming from the fire department.
Patty, this is Sarah Emery Bunn. Could you send your PowerPoint to me so that I can share it with the association? John has my email address.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Yeah, cool. Definitely.
And your contact information would be great too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you, Patty. I just want to, sorry. Patty?
Go ahead.
I just wanted to add that in my neighborhood, we had a hinky vegetation problem, and Patty had it fixed pronto. So she's.
Oh, yes, I remember that. Yeah.
Hi,
Other
Patty.
questions?
My question is in regards to a city property lot that is next to my property line. And it
Okay.
has a lot of big oak trees that are bending towards our property. And I know, oak trees being protected and stuff. Who in the city, I tried reaching out to the city, different departments many times. I can't find the right people for them to come and inspect and trim. So those trees are not, over. Anyone can look into that if I give you the address?
Yeah, you can send it to me and I'll go do an inspection and just so you know, if it's city property and it has protected trees, Catherine or the Public Works Department, they will not respond to that. They only respond to private properties. So it would be the cities, so it will be neighborhood services. Or depending on where this parcel is, I could either get a contract crew to trim the trees or just first, what I need to do is take a look and see what that fire hazard is and then go from there.
Okay.
That
Can I
it?
just put the address on the chat, or how do I give it to you directly?
I think
The
Sarah will
address in the chat,
provide
and then
that.
Sarah will send it out.
Yeah. This is Kathy Hartley. I have two questions really. One is, just a desire because of some research or work, call it interest that I've been doing is, I think it would be really great if the focus could turn at least a little more to suggested plantings. There are so many fire retardant plants and, it would just change, I think, people's approach to the problem. The other is, and some of the board members know this, to your point you just mentioned about city maintained areas. I think it's obvious to me, I think there's been a lot of clearance done over the last year, maybe year and a half. Things just seem much more maintained, cleared, et cetera. But we do have some pretty invasive species like these grasses that are growing everywhere. And that's my only other comment, along with suggested plantings, that we also consider education about what's invasive and therefore really would be a risk. These grasses would just be an incredible ember maker. So just a comment. Somebody, I don't know where it came from, maybe like 2 years ago, suggested everybody cut down their trees. I thought that was pretty appalling. I understand the sentiment, but that is, not why people live here. So I just think we could take another kind of a different approach. I get it. We're all responsible to clear our brush. But, there's so many opportunities. There are opportunities here as well. That's it. Thanks. Thank you for the focus.
Thank you,
And
Kathy.
for all the care and the responses over the years to our brush fire.
I have a question to Shant Sahakian.
He's not here, and it's not part of our agenda.
Oh, I'm sorry. I see his picture.
Well, no, this is not part of Victoria. This is not
Okay.
part of our agenda.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
Anybody else? Well-
Sir, this is John Payne again. I put a link to a really cool training session that's happening in the city of Glendale. It's in the chat. It's free of charge and it's called Home Ignition Zone Evaluator Training. And it's free of charge. It's offered by the Resource Conservation District of the Santa Monica Mountains. And it will train individuals how to recognize opportunities to harden your home and that of your neighbors. Totally free. Check out the link and sign up. And the training's happening here in March.
John and Patty, the CCA will be glad to send out a follow-up email with any links that you want to give to people.
I'm collecting those,
Okay.
Graham. I've seen them come in and I've got them all ready for you.
I think
Okay,
that,
I have another thing that I wanted to bring up. If any of you guys happen to see, a city property that you guys are concerned about, or a neighbor's property, please let me know directly so I can take care of it.
Yes, but we're not seeing your chat or your ID, but I'm sure Sarah will provide that. Right, right. We
Yeah,
don't even see you on the
that's correct.
screen.
I know.
Thanks.
I just want to mention, thank you for Richard Coppola to showing up. It's good to see your face and Sean Sahaki, also, both of you.
okay, thank you very much. I think that concludes the meeting for tonight. I have one last thought about Chevy Chase Canyon, and that Chevy Chase Canyon is the only place in Los Angeles where you don't hear freeway buzz. Thank you all for coming. Good night.